First off, I just want to thank you for coming to this Inform Your Community Craftivism event. My name is Jake. I have a brown shirt on, and my background is this light blue. No, you don't need to have video on. It's completely up to you. Closed captioning is enabled and can be turned on by participants. And here at Inform Your Community, we offer events that combine important, impactful information with having fun. So you can visit us on our website at www.informyourcommunity.org. You can find our social media links on the bottom of our website, and you can tell your friends to sign up for our mailing list on the top right. And of course, you can also donate using the link at the top right of the page as well. If you're watching the recording of this video, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and comment on YouTube. It really helps us out. And we love to hear what you think of our crafts, events, and to see your finished projects on social media. So this event is part of our Craftivism program where adults learn different art techniques while discussing relevant social issues. As a reminder, Craftivism is an adult program and not intended for children. And today's topic is small business. So small business is a very important topic for us to discuss because about 90% of small businesses fail within 1 year. So we want to support small businesses to help them succeed. And you'll find out about why the success of small business matters to everyone, not just to those entrepreneurs. To help us with our discussion today is our co-facilitator, David Goldstone from the Small Marketing Agency. David has been working in the marketing industry for 30 years, and David and his team have worked with dozens of small businesses, and they are about to celebrate their anniversary in May. So congratulations, David, and we're so happy to have you today. I will also be monitoring tech issues and helping monitor the chat. So throughout the craft, if you have any questions or comments on the craft or the topic, feel free to either unmute yourself, talk or write in the chat, whatever feels comfortable with you. And we'd love to see your work in progress, so feel free to show your project to the camera as you make it and when it's complete, but it's completely up to you. I would also like to take a moment to introduce our crafter, Stacey. Stacey will help us with learning our art technique today, which is cross stitch. So Stacey, could you tell us more about the technique we're learning today?
Yes, I'd love to. Hi, everyone. Hi, Jake. Hi, David. My name is Stacey. My pronouns are she and her. I am a white woman with curly brown hair. My shirt is green and my background is blurred today. So today we are learning a very basic stitch and the cross stitch technique. I selected this craft. I was an avid cross stitcher many, many years ago, and I love to share this with you so you can take it on with you. And it's also never too early to understand the important role that small businesses play in our community. And it's not too early to think about if we might want to create our own businesses one day. So together we'll foster our entrepreneurial spirit by creating our own storefront building on a cross stitch pattern and learn about small businesses. So as you do this craft, I'd like you to think about what businesses would you have? What would your business theme be? What would your storefront look like? And the best is also this craft doesn't take much to complete. Before we begin, I just wanted to let everyone know what they will need for this craft. So everyone is going to need a pair of scissors. If you have our kit, you can take that out. You're going to have, with our kit, 2 storefront templates, carbon paper, a wooden stick with a pointy side and a flat side, a tapestry needle, which is used in cross stitching, a needle threader, seed beads, a plastic cloth for our cross stitch design, and one skein of embroidery floss. If you do not have our kit, you can grab some embroidery floss if you have on hand. String or thread at least the length of your hand to your elbow is a good measurement, all the way from fingertips all the way to elbow. Thin non-stretch cotton fabric, like similar to what we're using here today. A tapestry needle that has an eye in it to thread. Pen, fabric chalk, possibly a permanent marker, and a needle threader if you have one.
While folks are checking out the materials, let's talk about why small businesses matter. To begin with, They're critical to the health of the economy. Small businesses are the main driver of innovation. Every big business started out as a small business, and they're all driven by a need in the market to either fulfill someone's dreams or to try to build something to do something better. And we're going to talk a little bit about those big companies that exist because of small innovative starts as we go through this. It's important to keep in mind small businesses create 64% of the new jobs every year. That's about 1.5 million jobs annually. And if you think about that, all the people that would be out of work, well, Manhattan has a population of 1.6 million. So imagine everybody in Manhattan was unemployed. And that's what it would be like if we didn't have small businesses. Kind of a mind-boggling thing. Um, well, why small businesses seem to be on the decline is a different conversation. There's been a shift to larger companies over the last few centuries, and you heard that right, centuries. Hard to pinpoint an exact start date, but the first real indication of change happened in 1440 when the printing press was invented. The printing press changed everything. It was the first shift to mass production and big business, but it was far from the last. We'll talk about some of those in a little while, but right now, why don't we just get back to the craft?
Thank you so much. That sounds great. So sorry, dropped my needle. Yes, if you have our kit, inside this plastic is your needle. So you're going to take that out. But first, we're going to take our template. And we're going to need to trace our craft onto our canvas. So you're going to need to just cut away. We're going to use the black and white template in this craft because it is a better size and easier to work with today. So you're just going to cut that away from the colored craft, the colored template. And what you're going to grab is your carbon copy, your piece of canvas, and you're going to place them in this order. So we're going to also need our wooden dowel as well. So you're going to put can you see that? Yep, the plastic on the bottom, and then the carbon on top of that, with the side with writing on top and the solid side facing down. Now for this, you're going to have to eyeball where you would like this to lay. Essentially what we're going to be doing is tracing this design onto our canvas. And if you don't have our kit, what you're going to do is just freehand design a drawing on there with a pen, and maybe like a 3x3 or a 2x2 square and a triangle, and add a door, just like this, the way we have it for your storefront. So if this moves around on you, have a safety pin in the kit, or you can just hold it. So as you can see, I'm just going to eyeball this. Now, you do want to hold your cloth more where the longer side is up and down, because we want to get the height of the rooftop of our storefront on there. And what you're going to do is take the flat side of the wooden stick and trace all around the pattern, making sure that you rub and just trace the design onto your plastic. And when you're completely satisfied that you've rubbed it hard enough, as you can see, I'm going a couple of times across because I want to get that carbon to color through on the other side. I'm just going to go around one more time and across and on the top. And when you lift it away, you should have the image, as you can see, right there. And like I said, feel free to just freehand some light design on there if you don't have our kit, or are watching later and doing this on your own. So while our artists are working on that, David, I was hoping you could tell us what actually is small business.
A small business is typically independently owned and is under 50 employees. And with a small business, you have a sense of ownership. You get to know your employees. Small businesses are going to be innovators and disruptors. They like to try new things that big companies either can't do or won't do or aren't doing well. And by doing that, they kind of beat the big companies at their own game, which is how small businesses grow. They find a niche. And you may remember the movie Coco. The family that owned the shoe business, we call those types of businesses mom and pop stores, and they're special because you can meet the people who do the work and they get to know you. And unlike dealing with a company where you can only chat with them by email or a chat bot, these people take the time to know about your interests and learn about you, and you learn about them. And that's the advantage of a small business. They focus on the personal relationships that big businesses can't manage because of their scale.
Yeah. So you said that the printing press created a shift to big business. Did the printing press really impact small businesses that much?
Actually, it did. It was a seismic shift. The printing press spurred literacy and made information more accessible to the people, which led to innovation. People had ideas that they could do things better than the way they were currently being done. And this led to newspapers and print advertising. And that created lots of businesses, small businesses. As the businesses grew, the way they operated evolved. People got smarter about it, and that led to the Industrial Revolution. And in 1760, that's where we saw machines being used in the workplace to improve efficiencies and create standardized products. And all these changes helped increase the production of goods, with increased profits, and in return, that boosted the economy. Another major change in the business world was the introduction of the assembly line. Henry Ford created the assembly line to mass produce cars back in 1913. Hard to imagine it was only 100 years ago, but only really rich people had cars. The introduction of the assembly line and mass produced parts made cars more affordable because people could work faster, performing one task. And by working together on an assembly line, Ford people paid people the same amount of money he paid them before, but they were able to build cars 4 times faster, to make it possible for the average family to own a car for the first time. It drove costs down. And in history, these changes, each one took the idea of standardization, increased the production speed to new levels. People worked hard and smart. And innovation from big businesses brought great benefits to society, like large-scale large-scale employment opportunities, hiring thousands of people. That big business can also work against the small business by being able to produce more product at lower prices in more locations. The cool part is, at least I think it is, it's very often people quit their jobs with a big company, start their own company because they believe there's a better way to do things, which allows them to try new ideas, compete against the big company, and even grow their new company enough that it becomes a big company. Innovation and new ideas are what keep our economy going. Speaking of keeping things going, that was long-winded answer to your question, Stacey. We need to keep going with the crafting. What comes next in our project?
Yes, thank you so much for all that information. But yes, let's keep everyone going. The next step in the craft is we're going to prepare the floss that you have. So we have our skein, if you have our kit. And just a few things to note before we begin that I'd like to note. So standard floss skeins are made of 6 strands. In here on the end, as you can see, there are 6 strands in a standard skein. A nice workable length of fabric to a length of thread or floss to use, especially when working with cross stitch, is again a length that is from your fingertips to your elbow. So no need for a ruler. We're just going to use our fingertips to our elbow to measure. Anything longer tends to get tangled when stitching. Typical cross stitch patterns, as you move on to continue cross stitching, pattern requires 2 strands of floss. So we're going to use 1 strand of floss in this pattern and double it over, essentially making it 2. So to begin, we're going to remove the wrapper gently from our skein, being sure to find the true end of the floss. So it's typically easy to kind of grab. And so holding that end in your fingertips and gently laying the rest of it down on your table, what we're going to do is pinch here at your fingertips and hold your hand out as long as you can. Like, don't curl your wrist. And then take the skein and bring it to your elbow. And then pinch it here and drop what's in your hand. And then just take the piece that you pinched at your elbow and do that again. So we have a longer length. And then here at your elbow for the second time is where you're going to make the cut. So just to show you again, so take the true end, pinch it at your fingertips and to your elbow, take from your elbow to your fingertips and again, and hold here. And this is where we're going to make our cut. So it doesn't have to be exact, but so this piece that we just created is, this is what we will be stitching with, the piece that you just cut. So while our crafters are working on that, I thought I would share about Samuel Slater. Samuel Slater, he is known as the father of the American factory system and was focused on textiles or goods made of cloth in the United States. So David, what is it about big business that made us concerned about small business?
Well, we used to have, and we still do to a certain extent, wealthy industrialists, and like J.D. Rockefeller and his company, the Standard Oil Company. They, they, his business pushed out small oil companies, and people didn't have a choice of what oil company to buy from. And we call those monopolies, meaning, one choice, mono. And they're bad because they take away your options of who to buy from. They control prices, and they hurt everyone because they stop new ideas from being tried. They don't like the idea of the big monopoly that squelches it. So, for example, Starbucks started as a single coffee shop in Seattle, and now it's a worldwide company. But it's not the only coffee shop you can go to. Starbucks is great, but there are also lots of great small coffee shops that are terrific small businesses. So you have choice. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Mhm.
So let's start
Well,
our
let's start our own. Yeah, let's
small
build small
business.
business.
Yes, actually, after everyone learns how to cross stitch, they can make a lot of things. um, so we're going, the next step is to separate and thread with our floss. So before we begin to separate the ends, what I'd like you to do is just kind of prepare it. So just kind of run it through your hands and pull on it at both ends. And this is essentially just loosening the thread. And then also to take at your fingertips from the beginning and even your nails if you haven't, but you don't, you can just use your fingertips and just run from one end to the other. Again, this just helps loosen the floss for us to separate it. So as I said, we're going to need one strand of this floss to begin. What you want to do is start to fray the ends. As you can see, there are 6, as I mentioned, and you're just going to grab one. And you're going to carefully move that one strand away from the others. But it's important to note that you can't just tug and pull this out. What happens is as you go down the length of the rest of the floss, it does tangle and get knotted. So if you can hold it in your hand, like almost like a Y, essentially, and then gently with your other hand, take your fingers and you gently just want to like fold it away as you unravel. And you might see that it starts to catch and it wants to curl itself back up. So you just kind of work it and just gently loosen um, as you go. Hopefully you can all see that well. um, and then you may have to let go from the top and just kind of grab it a little bit more down the middle as you're working your way through. And you'll see what I mean when I say you can't just tug at it because it will not on you. This one's being feisty with me. So we're going to And that's why we don't work with very long pieces, because the longer you have, the more you need to pull away. So, and why mine's not wanting to work with me? Is anyone else having difficulty here too? Okay. And there you have it. Okay, so we're going to save this because we are going to need some more strands. So don't lose sight of the other 5 strands in there, but we'll just start with 1 for now. So what we're going to do is thread this into our tapestry needle. What you want to do is take the 2 ends and hold them evenly together. And we're also going to take our needle threader, and I'll show you if you've never worked with a needle threader. What you want to do is take the tip of it and place it through the eye of your tapestry needle. If you can see that. I know that it's so thin, it's very hard to see, but I've essentially just taken the tip of the needle threader and put it through the tapestry needle. I'm going to take the 2 ends and put them through the loop of my needle threader and just hold that and then pull the eye through and out. And then you have your needle threaded. And what you want to do is let it hang about 5 inches into the rest of the floss. I will show you that again. But David, I wonder, back to what you were stating about monopolies earlier, was there any pushback or protection?
There was, because like I said, when you have a monopoly, it means you have no protection from competition. I mean, there's just one competitor. One company runs everything. And that causes great problems with price control and a lack of innovation. A great classic example is the Standard Oil Company. It was broken up in 1911 as an illegal monopoly, and the government forced Standard Oil to break up into 34 smaller companies. And a lot of these companies are still around, but we know them today as Exxon, Chevron, Amoco, Mobil, and on and on. In 1933, President Roosevelt set up a small business protection organization, the first in the U.S., and he put out special agencies and rules to ensure that small businesses receive their share of government contracts to help foster competition. And these efforts made it important. It supported small businesses, and these programs were the precursor to a lot of modern programs that help create some of the best known names in the world, like Boeing or General Motors and even Microsoft. In 1976, Congress created the Office of Advocacy of the U.S. Small Business Administration, the SBA. And the Small Business Administration ensures that the interests of small businesses are considered when new laws are being created, and it helps them get loans that they may not have ordinarily been able to qualify for from a traditional bank because they don't have a credit history or a long track record. And since then, hundreds of organizations focused on helping small businesses have sprung up. And these government protections are incredibly important. As someone who has a small business, it's scary to realize that 90% of small businesses fail within the first 5 years.
Wow.
So, looks like the stores are making great progress coming along. What do you do next?
Thank you. Yes, we're actually going to begin to cross stitch now. So now that everyone's prepared their floss and their needle. So you may want to watch me first before we begin to cross stitch. And what I'm going to be showing you is the cross stitch in cross stitching. That's what it's known as. It is actually the most commonly used stitch in cross stitching. So there are two methods, just some information, when used in cross stitching. There's the English method, which starts, I'm going to show. Okay. So I'll show that. The English method starts with slashes from the bottom corner to the top left, the bottom left corner to the top right corner, and you essentially make X's as you go across the pattern. The Danish method is you go from left to right or right to left, just making slashes until you get to the end. And then when you continue back over, you working from left to right or right to left, you finish off your X. So we're going to be using the Danish method to start. It is the mostly used. And the thing to know also about cross stitching is when you begin to stitch, it doesn't matter if you're working left to right or right to left, as long as you stay consistent throughout the design. Because what happens is sometimes the light catches stitch holes in the stitching differently. So true cross stitchers always work in the same direction. So we're going to begin stitching on the top horizontal line of your storefront of the top of the square. So we're going to go across that way. And I'm going to show you how to make this stitch, and also the most commonly used way of beginning to cross stitch is called the loop method. You're always going to come up from the back, and as you can see, you're going to look at every section here kind of like a square. Every little box, you'll have a bottom left corner, a top right corner, a bottom right corner, a top left corner. So we're going to come up from the back and push our needle through the bottom left corner of our first square here, and come up through the back and pull your needle through. And I'll show you the back of the thread. So you essentially have a loop there, and you want to leave about that much. You can hold it with your finger in place. And what we're going to do then is come to the top right corner of that square. Hopefully everyone can see the little squares. And when you pull your needle through from the top to the back, you want to grab that loop. So you want to wrap your needle through that loop before you pull it through. And then that is going to create, you pull it through, and that creates a nice loop for you. Did I miss my, hold on. Do what I just did. And I have to start over because my floss came out of my needle. And that happens sometimes. And it's a good way to practice threading. Okay, so bottom left corner through, not pulling it all the way through. Sorry. And into the top right corner. Pulling that loop through. And then just pull it all the way through and tug nice and tight. Hopefully you all saw that. And so in this method, you're not wasting any floss. So that is the loop method to begin. And you're not wasting any thread, and you're going to continue making dashes all the way across. So left, again, the Danish method, you're going to go bottom left corner
Just wait for a second.
to top
I'm in
right
the middle of
corner.
the meeting. Is everything okay?
And that's our dash, bottom left corner to top right corner. And that one, I went one too far over. So if you do, again, if you find that you've missed a hole, you can try to come back up through that same hole, or you just pull the needle out and rethread. And so we're going to continue going across the top portion, going from left to right. And when you get to the end, we're going to come back across, finishing off the X. And are there any questions? Hopefully everyone can see. Okay. So as we work here, David, so why do people start small businesses?
Oh, like many people, the desire to try new ideas and see if there's a better way to do things. And that's actually why I went out on my own. I mean, just because you're bigger as a company doesn't mean you're better. And I wanted to be my own boss. So, and I think that holds true for most people who start their own business. In fact, I've heard the number is as high as 55% of people open their own business so they can be their own boss and pursue their own passion.
Hmm.
Stacey, what do you think makes a small business stand out?
I would say personalized service for sure. For small businesses, 48% of people shop SMEs for higher quality items and 45% for personalized service. Consumers, 77% are willing to pay more if they receive excellent customer service from small businesses. And also, I feel giving back to their community.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And I read a recent study that said immigrants represent 25% of startup founders, but only they make up only 13.7% of the population, which means they're twice as likely to start a small business. Millennials and Gen Z are 188% more likely to create a small business compared to baby boomers. And online stores like Etsy make having a small business accessible to people around the country easier. Even eBay and Amazon can help small businesses, even though those platforms are big businesses themselves. And small business as a model continues to evolve. People become influencers or bloggers or even play video games online, through Twitch for money as small businesses. And it's not like it used to be where a small business had to have a storefront or an office. A small business can be a virtual business and uh, become a big business without ever having to have a physical location.
Hmm. Um,
You don't need a storefront or an office.
no. um, I'm going to, yeah, speaking of that, we're going to continue on with small businesses. I'm sorry. We're going to continue the next step, but there is a possibility that the next step would be, sorry, finishing off if you do run out of floss. So that may be what's happening to some. So just want to show how to finish off once you do run out of floss. I'm just still working on my stitching now from the right side over to the left. And you can see, I just want to show you, I want to point out the back, if you can see those nice lines. So that is what a Danish method looks like on the back, which sometimes matters when you are cross stitching. If you do plan to frame your artwork, you don't want a lot of bulk in the back because it tends to then protrude into like the frame or anything. So most do tend to go with the Danish method for that reason, because sometimes it matters what the back looks like. And so essentially you're going in and out of the corners a few times go as you work back and forth. And many cross stitchers do work with extra lighting. So if this is a craft you do tend, you think you want to take up, many use like a spotted light on themselves and on their work, just because you can see it's very small to use. So if you're running out of floss, I'll show you it when you're running low or at any point. Even if you want to walk away from your work, you can leave it where it is as long as no one's going to touch it. But sometimes what stitchers do is they'll take their needle and put it through here just to keep it safe also so that it doesn't come loose. But to finish off, if you are running low, what you want to do is always make sure you land in the back. So just pull it through at least one more stitch and never stitch where you don't have enough where you can still work and pull with the needle. So leave a decent amount. If you see that you're running low, it's easy to finish off and grab another piece and start another loop and start from where you left off. So finishing off is just simply taking your needle and pulling it through some of these dashes here that we have, at least 3 or 4. If you can see, I'm just running it gently through some of them, and I'm going to just pull it all the way through and then make a cut as close as I can because we don't want to leave too much hanging. So it's a nice, it's neatly tucked inside of itself. So that is a way to finish off if you're running low. And then what you do is grab another piece of floss and start from the beginning. So I have another piece of floss ready. As you can see, many people stitch for comfort and relaxation because this can be very relaxing and methodical work and a nice way to enjoy some downtime. So I'm going to start again by using my threader and threading another piece with the 2 ends, 1 strand of floss, putting the 2 ends together, coming through the loop and pulling it through. Okay. So you start at the beginning. All right. So if you've come back all the way through the other direction, you can, at this point, what we're also going to do, what I suggest to do is work down the left side of your storefront design here. And what you want to do is turn your pattern this way. So that left side is facing towards you. And then you're going to begin working from left to right again, making your dashes going left and your dashes going right. And the reason that is because then we can continue on with the rooftop of the house. So, and after that, you can decide if you want to go to the right side or the bottom. After that, you can continue on. Just remember, if once you do get to the right side, then you just want to rotate that side and work towards yourself also. So we're going to continue on with our stitching. And if we can, let's talk about where big businesses come from.
Yeah, the innovative spirit of small businesses has created fantastic changes to society globally. And oftentimes those changes start with a small family-owned business. And here are a few you may be familiar with. For example, the Madam C.J. Walker Manufacturing Company was started in 1910 by Sarah Breedlove, who was later known as Madam C.J. Walker. She made hair and beauty supplies focused on African American women in their community. Sephora still sells Madam Walker products under the name of Madam C.J. Walker Beauty Culture to this day, more than 100 years later. Pretty impressive. We also know of an online store called Amazon. Early on, Amazon had all the computers they need to run in the operations of Jeff Bezos' garage. They used so much power that Jeff's wife couldn't use the hair dryer or the fuse would blow. And now Amazon's one of the largest retailers in the world. And if beauty supplies and online shopping doesn't excite you, well, maybe candy does. I'm sure most of the people here are like me. This time of the year, we love candy, like Snickers and Skittles and M&Ms. Well, they all exist because of a company called Mars. Mars was created in 1913 by Franklin and Ethel Mars. And they started at a candy store and made their own candy, and it grew. And now Mars Incorporated owns hundreds of brands of confectionery like M&Ms and Snickers and Twix and Skittles and Wrigley's chewing gum and pet care. They own Pedigree, Royal Canin, Whiskas, Iams. They own Ben's Original, which used to be called Uncle Ben's Rice. They own Pine Bars and more. It is a massive global company with diverse product lines and snacks, pet foods, and other goods. Many small businesses can grow big. So what we take for granted that comes from companies that started out as small, we don't even realize how it all came about. And maybe our artists will be able to help to start and grow their own businesses too.
Yeah. That's great information. All right. I'm gonna finish off working here from right to left, and I do want to take a moment to show our artists the rooftop because we've been using the Danish method, which is, as you can see, slashes. I'm going from the left and then finishing off my X, going then from left to right and then right to left. But the rooftop, we need a diagonal design. We're not working with a horizontal line. So for that, we do have to use the English method and make a complete X as we go along in the rooftop. So again, you may want to just watch me. So I finished off, and as you can see, that's why I had you go again from this side and then this side, because I end up here in the top corner. And what I want to do is I'm gonna you start from coming up from the back, and I'm gonna pull that through, going from the bottom left to the top right corner and make my dash. And then I'm gonna finish it off by going bottom right corner of that same square to the top left corner. And pull it all the way through. So I finished off one square. That's the English method by making a complete X. Now, it's important to know that what we're going to do for the next one is you're going to always start again going from working on a diagonal from bottom left to the top of the rooftop. You're always going to start the next X, English method X, in the top right corner of the previous X you made. So if you want to keep that in mind as you continue up. So that is where I brought my needle from the back up from the top right corner of the last X that I made. And then I'm going to now go there and then go again to the top right corner of that. Nope. And sorry, I missed. I didn't go on a diagonal. So yes, I want to make sure I'm going on a diagonal again. So I want to go diagonally there. So you can see here, that was my previous X. I'm using the top right corner. Now that becomes basically the bottom left corner of my next one. And I'm going to finish off the X there. And we're going to continue on in that method as we stitch up to the top of the rooftop. So I want to do a few more so you can see. Previous X, top right corner, essentially becoming the bottom left corner of my next X, and making a dash that way. You can see it's starting to grow diagonally upwards as I continue on with that stitch there. So that's the most important step here to keep in mind as you're stitching on a diagonal, is where to go next to make it look like a diagonal pattern. Again, bottom, yep, top right corner of my previous X becoming the bottom left corner of my next X, and making that diagonal stitch. And finishing that off there. You can see how it's nicely growing upwards there on a diagonal incline. So you can finish off, as I showed you how to finish off once you reach the peak. The best thing to do actually, once we do get to the top, is finish off your thread, because coming down, what we're going to do is start from the bottom corner of the storefront working upwards. It's just easier to stitch that way. So you do want to finish off once you get to the tippy point. So David, as we continue on with our diagonal, what can we each do to help small businesses?
Well, there are a few things, and they're really important. Number one is you can support local businesses, local small businesses, because the money you spend with them goes back to your communities for jobs, right? They hire people in your community. They buy things from local business vendors, whether it's a restaurant to buy supplies, clothing store they may buy from local merchants, and that money, they support area schools. When you support a small business in your community, you really are supporting your community, because that business owner is paying for ballet lessons and braces and private school, and all that money goes back into your community and helps your community grow. Another thing you can do is you can write a review or share positive stories online or on social media. Give them a good review and a shout out. Support them, because that's how business is done, right? People want to know good things. And take the time to let owners know you, and you get to know the owner. Say hi to them when you go into the place. Ben and Jerry, if you like ice cream, they're real guys. And they started with a single ice cream stand, and they got to know their customers, and they even named some flavors after their customers. And some delis are even famous for naming sandwiches after their customers. I mean, would you like a sandwich named after you? Supporting small business, good for everyone.
Yes, that sounds like great advice to follow. And you're naming great companies and making me hungry.
Well, maybe there will be a La Caruba sandwich,
Oh, maybe.
on the menu somewhere.
That sounds lovely. So the one thing again, I'm attempting to just finish this off so I could show you how to begin working on the other side, because essentially I just want to teach you how to work your rooftop, finish that off on the opposite side. Which I'll use the piece that we cut And then, so in the kit, or if you want to create a doorknob, there are some seed beads included. Some of the, essentially what you want to make sure is that the bead that you choose goes all the way through, you're able to thread it through your needle to the, all the way through the eye. If the hole in the bead isn't big enough, a workaround is you can glue it to add a doorknob if you'd like. Okay, so having a hard time just threading. Okay. So coming up to do the other angle of our rooftop, what you're going to do is start on the far right corner of the design. But you want to go just above the last stitch here, not to the side of it. And we're going to come up from the back as normal. And then we're going to make a dash going through. I started anew, so I'm creating my loop there, as you can see. Take this stitch going left to right. Okay, and finishing off my X. So essentially for this side, very important is the next stitch that you make is going to be the hole directly left of where you just left off. Again, this is so that your pattern starts to climb upwards. So where I just left off is going to be here. So directly left. And essentially then what I'm going to be doing is working from right to left with my X. So I'm kind of going the opposite way of working bottom right corner to top left corner, bottom left corner to top right corner, making the X. And then I'm going directly left. Sorry, in the hole directly left of the last stitch that I made, if you can see that. So it hasn't been occupied by the floss yet. I want to move over to the left one, and I'm going left to top right. And then bottom right to top left. Okay. And then again, going directly to the hole left of where I just left off that has not been occupied by floss is the key to remember there. So that you're still on the same line of where you left off, but you're just moving over to the left empty space in the next X that you're going to make. And you can see we are starting to just climb upwards there. And you should meet at the top. I started a little off. So mine is going to have a different pattern in my rooftop if I continued on here, but I didn't finish my line all the way left. as I continued on. But as you climb upwards, you should meet at the top of where you left off there. Um, and um, so for the door, I just want you to think about here in the door. You can decide if you'd like to just outline your door or if you want to fill it in. So if you want to fill it in, as I did on a sample one here, it just looks a little more solid. And what you can do is continue stitching the width of the door that you have there. And then just keep going, working left to right with your Danish stitch and going back right to left. So, or you can outline it if you'd like. And again, just remembering to keep enough thread so you can finish off and just start a new thread if you need to. If you need to just glue the bead on, because I believe many of them just won't fit through the eye of this tapestry needle. So how are we on time, Jake? Are we
We're just about at 7:30.
okay. Um, all right. So one other thing about starting your door is you should start on the top left corner and work across there with a new piece of floss. It just is because you'll have less bulk again on the back side of your design by starting a new piece of floss, and it is easier to work from the left, sorry, as you can see, from the left of the design to the right, that way. So I think we've covered all the steps. Is there anything else to add? Anything else, David, for you to add?
Oh, I'm terrific. I mean,
You're
I think this
golden.
has been amazing. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Well, if that's the case, then before we conclude, we do have one last item, and that is our raffle. First off, I just want to say thank you so much, David and Stacey, and all of our artists and attendees. But for this raffle, I'm going to write a number from 1 to 100 on this piece of paper, and you can write it in the chat. The person who comes closest to this number will win a small business themed gift set that includes a canvas tote, notepad, and pen. So I'm going to write the number down now. It's my favorite number. So I'll give people a chance to type what their answer will be. And whoever the winner is, I will put my email, I'll message you my email, or you can direct message me your name and let me know the address where we can send you the prize. Okay, I see a 37, I see a 68, I see a 46, and I see a 34. I'll give a couple more seconds. 72, 15. Okay, anyone else? Last chance. So, okay, I think that's it. So the number I wrote was backwards, but 12, my favorite number. So Emily, congratulations, you got 15, which you were the closest. So if you would like, you can direct message me your name and address or email, and I could reach out to you and we can discuss sending you the prize. But otherwise, I want to thank Stacey and David again, and thank you all for coming today. We hope you'll continue to learn a little more about small business, and to help, we'll send you links to find out our event video and infographic in a follow-up email by the end of the week, which we encourage you to share with others. Also, please consider committing to a weekly act to raise awareness about issues related to the importance of small business, whether that's spreading the word of mouth or on social media about a business you love, or just visiting and patronizing a small business. Getting informed by coming to this event is a great way to start. And you can also refer friends and family. You can share our infographic as well as the ones that some of the stuff David shared. You can kind of tell people about that, let them know the history a little more. Our email will include a brief survey of what you thought about the event. And I'm actually going to put up a poll real quick. So this is just going to ask you kind of some questions about the event. This is different than the survey you're going to get in our email. So if you would take your time to answer that, we'd be very grateful just to see if people learned a little more about small business versus what they came into this event knowing. And while people answer that, I just want to say our schedule for the year will be posted on our website. Again, that is www.informyourcommunity.org. Tickets, materials, and shipping are free for our online crafting events, so please sign up. We have chapters in places like Orlando and New York City, with more chapters being planned and on the way. And of course, we always have our national chapter with our free virtual events. Remember, if you sign up for a crafting event, whether it be our Celebrate and Create Kids Crafting series or our Adult Craftivism series like this one, you will only receive the kits mailed to you if you signed up a week before. And to look for and learn about our other Inform Your Community events besides our Craftivism program, you can check out our website. We do things like a movie night followed by a discussion. We do speaker series. We do scavenger hunts. Just a lot of free, informative events about important issues and topics. Once again, if you're watching this video on YouTube, please be sure to like our video, comment on it, and subscribe to our channel. Also, please consider donating to cover the cost of the materials and shipping if you can afford it, as it helps keep our events free for those who can't. And just want to one last time thank you so much for coming and for helping inform your own communities based on what you've learned today.